Good morning. I was wondering if I could speak to someone about what I think is a misprint in one of your magazines.
Okay, one
Should
moment.
I? Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, service department.
Hello, good morning. I came across one of your magazines, sir. And one of my relatives is a Jehovah's Witness, and she had her magazines handed over, and I was there, so I sort of opened the door for her. And I was looking through one of your magazines, and I came across something that is either going to be a mistake or I would like to discuss with you because it's serious.
So what is it?
What it is, I looked at the August 2016 study edition of the Watchtower, and there was an article there entitled "Making Christian Marriage a Success," which I thought, oh, that sounds nice. I'll have a quick look at that. And I found on paragraph 13 of page 16 something that I thought I'd like to discuss with you.
Okay, yeah, I've got that down.
Should I just read it for you? It says here, separation might at times be justified. Willful non-support, extreme physical abuse, and the absolute endangerment of one's spiritual life are exceptional situations that some have viewed as reasons for separation. Now, just that paragraph alone raised a lot of red flags with me, sir. Now, I went on to refuge.org.uk, which is the United Kingdom's premier charity for people suffering from domestic violence, which is what you're describing here. And I just took a few notes that I thought I'd share with you. Obviously, physical abuse, which is what you're talking about here, is the most recognisable. But there's also emotional abuse, there's financial abuse, there's sexual abuse. All of these things are a crime. You know, physical abuse of someone is a crime, and yet your article doesn't mention that. Why is that? That worries me. You're not saying to anyone to inform the police. Now, if you speak to the charities, if you are suffering from physical abuse, the charity recommend that you make notes of when and where and how these things happen, to be ready to phone the police at any time. And none of this advice is here for these, mainly women, who may be suffering from these things. So, can you explain to me why there isn't a reference that this is a crime?
Okay, I think I've got your question. Let me put you with somebody that can help you with that.
Okay, thank you, sir. You have a nice day.
You do, thanks. Understand you have a question about an article you've been reading in the Watchtower.
Yes, that's correct. So I was looking at the August 2016 Watchtower, and it's an article entitled "Making Christian Marriage a Success."
Yes.
And I was just discussing with your colleague, it's on page 16 of that magazine, paragraph 13. It's just the wording of that paragraph I find very disturbing. As someone who has friends who've suffered from domestic violence, which is what you're describing here, I don't think you're going into this correctly. I think you need to tell people that it's a crime. I think you need to tell people that there's other kinds of domestic violence, for example, emotional abuse, financial abuse and sexual abuse. And I'm just very, very disturbed by the way you qualify things in this paragraph. And the main question I've got for you, if I may, sir, it says here, you qualify physical abuse. You say extreme physical abuse. Now, I'm not a member of your church, okay? So here's the scenario. A lady in your church is married to someone else who's also in your church, and he is physically abusing this lady. and she wants to separate, 'cause this isn't about divorce, this is about separation as far as I can see. Can she just walk out and say, right, my husband is giving me physical abuse, I'm walking out, I'm going to separate?
That's entirely up to her.
Okay, now, who decides whether the abuse is extreme or not?
What do you mean, who decides?
Well, if it's a Christian marriage, now, it says here the absolute endangerment of one's spiritual life, exceptional circumstances, blah blah. So it's up to the lady to decide that it's not just physical abuse, because it seems to me like what you're saying here is that some physical abuse is acceptable, and it's only when it gets to an extreme level that something can be done about it, that this lady can leave her partner. I know it happens to men as well, mainly this is happening to women. I'm very disturbed by that qualification. Why didn't you just write physical abuse? Why did you have to qualify it and say it's extreme? Because now someone has to decide on that continuum of physical abuse where the extreme starts, don't they?
Yeah, and only the person who's in that situation could decide whether they're willing to stay in that situation or not. That could only be a personal decision.
Absolutely, but then later on in the paragraph it's talking about your church leaders helping out, isn't it? Now, are your church leaders going to come along and say to Mrs. Abused, oh, I'm sorry, but why have you left Mr. Abuse here? Oh, because it's extreme physical abuse, and I thought I'd better leave him because I'm endangering my life staying with him. I don't like the language of it. It disturbs me. You know, this is a crime we're talking about, sir.
Yes, it is.
You know, women die in this country every year because of this. And I was looking at the charity refuge.org, and they were saying that over time the violence usually gets worse. So their advice is, as soon as it starts getting a bit violent, ladies, get the hell out of there. Now this article is saying, oh, it's extreme physical abuse may be a reason to separate. You see how you're starting to write this in a way that I find disturbing. Surely you should be saying to women and men who are suffering from physical abuse, this isn't how a marriage should be. Get proper counselling if necessary, but protect your life. I mean, I see that you're very concerned about one's spiritual life. The absolute endangerment of one's spiritual life is a reason to separate. What about the absolute endangerment of one's physical life?
And if somebody is in a situation where they're a victim of violence, it's absolutely their choice whether they stay in that situation, whether they approach the authorities, they get help from the police or from counselling. Absolutely their choice.
Absolutely, I agree with you, sir. But if the
congregation would never discourage them from doing that.
Oh yes, of course. So you never discourage people, but you never encourage people, do you? This is the problem I have with you Jehovah's Witnesses.
Very often.
You never ever encourage people. So you never say, oh, go to the police.
Often, a person in that situation would be encouraged to get that kind of help.
Well, that's good, but I don't see that in that paragraph.
That paragraph isn't talking about that situation. This paragraph is part of an article, as you know, which is about making a success of marriage. So this section of it is acknowledging that sometimes it's very difficult to make a success of marriage, and marriage can be strained, and there could be things that would lead a Christian to separate from their husband or wife. These are examples of things that some Christians might find will
okay, but I still don't like the way you've put extreme into that paragraph. Now, I don't think that if I showed that paragraph to Refuge, I don't think they'd be particularly chuffed about it. I think they would tell you to rewrite it. Now, I'm a busy man, so I'm just going to reread the paragraph to you how I think it should have been read, and I'm going to wish you a very good day, sir. So if you could just bear with me, this is how it should read in my opinion.
I'd like to refer you to the Watchtower, the jw.org website, where you can read some other articles on the same subject, which do actually talk about domestic violence. That's actually the subject of the article.
Right.
I find that quite enlightening.
Okay, well that'll be good. Well, this is how I think it should read. Separation is at times justified, non-support, physical abuse, and the absolute endangerment of one's life are situations that are viewed as reasons for separation. Now, if you'd have written that, I'd have been a very happy bunny indeed. But I just thought I'd speak to you about this because I know someone who suffered from domestic violence, and they said, "Oh, my former partner," but if they saw, "Oh, it's only extreme physical abuse," he'd have seen that as a license to carry on hitting me. So I'm just passing you on what someone who suffered from this interpreted that as. I've obviously have never been a victim of that, and I hope I never am, and I hope no one you know ever is. Okay, well, I thought that's all I really wanted to say to you, sir. So thank you very much for having a civil conversation with me, and I wish you a good day.
Okay, you have a good day.
Take care, sir. Bye. God bless. Bye.